Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Elevate Your Equity podcast, where investors, with a special emphasis on couples, begin, continue, and deepen their journey to financial freedom together using the powerful vehicle of real estate investing to do so. Today, we have awesome two guests of extreme power couple, one that's working a W-2 job and the other is full-time in multifamily, Nate and Bethany Smith, otherwise known as your Cashflow Couple. Nate's an entrepreneur and wealth building specialist and serves as a C-130 pilot in the Air National Guard. He and his wife, Bethany, known as your Cashflow Couple, are multifamily investors and lead a growing financial services agency. He's passionate about helping other people understand how money really works and helping with strategies and solutions to create more cash flow in their lives. He personally specializes in helping business owners, entrepreneurs, and real estate investors and those who want to become one with financial strategies to better store and grow cash using a strategy called cash flow banking that provides tax advantages, liquidity, and leverage to be able to invest into other investments. And Bethany, she has a background in residential real estate sales, transitioning at the beginning of 2019 into multifamily investing full-time. She's acting asset manager on several communities in the Western markets, such as Nevada and Arizona, and most recently closed on a 36-unit C-class apartment complex and actively pursuing the next investment. I believe in the show, she also mentioned that they are looking for something a little bit bigger, 3 times as big in Arizona, so that you got to listen, stay tuned for that. She is passionate about transforming troubled apartment complexes into a safe, stable community for tenants and their families. And she also serves on the leadership team for Multifamily Masters, an international meetup organization focused on multifamily real estate investing all across the country. This was an awesome show, wasn't it?
This was great. This couple is just crushing it in so many ways.
Yeah, it's amazing. They work together. They found a way to leverage each other's skills and abilities and started off on the same page together. And clearly what you'll see once we actually get rolling here is you'll find out they succeed in everything that they touch. Some of the things that I really like about this podcast that stands out to me is their vision, the shared vision that they have, and how they're able to tag team. And one person works one lane, the other person works the other. And they just have this great passion to help people. And you can totally see it in everything that they do. And so it's a very interesting, very compelling couple who have clearly shown proof of concept that working together really does work.
Absolutely. And also, ladies listening, Bethany has some great advice on how to really step up into the real estate game, especially if there's any fear, if there's any doubt. Bethany is an inspiration, and she is living proof that females can do anything they want when they put their minds to it.
Yeah, it's really, really inspiring. And I think you guys are going to really love the story. So let's just jump right into it. Nate and Bethany, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. How are you today?
Doing great.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys so much for having us on. We're excited for the conversation, and yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. So why don't you tell everyone who you guys are and what you're up to right now?
Okay, awesome. So my name is Nate. This is my wife, Bethany.
Hi.
We're in financial services and real estate investing. I got a military background as well. We call ourselves your cash flow couple. We love everything to do with cash flow. Our financial services business, the main focus is just financial literacy and educating people how money really works, and then helping them with different strategies and solutions to, win with their finances. And we also invest in multifamily, which I'll let my wife tell you about because that's mostly her wheelhouse. Mine is on the business and hers is on the real estate side. So I'll let her tell you about that side.
Yeah, we invest in markets west of the Rockies, primarily right now, Southern Arizona, and then also looking for additional properties in the Las Vegas area. We target kind of troubled assets that need what's called value add. So we can come in and do some renovation, fix up the properties, improve them, and yeah, turn them around, make them a great, stable, safe environment for our tenants, which I personally find the most fulfilling aspect. So
that's awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming on, making time for us. We're really excited to have you here today. And so maybe we can back up a little bit, right? Let's talk about how you guys first got interested in investing in real estate. Usually investing in real estate is kind of something that we fall into, right? And so maybe you can talk a little bit about your story about how that all happened for you guys.
Sure. So it started off when I first joined the military. I was right out of high school. They stick you in the dorms for a couple of years, but as soon as I got out of the dorms, I was like, I should probably buy a house. That seems like the logical thing to do. I'm an adult, so buy a house. So I bought a house, and put a lot of work into it. It wasn't really a huge fixer-upper, but just did some basic stuff, some renovations. Lived in it for a couple of years. We got married, and then she helped me renovate it some more. Turned into a rental by not really by intention, but I was in pursuit of becoming a pilot in the military, and so we were moving a lot, and just ended up keeping it and renting it out. That was the first taste. Like, we saw the potential. We weren't making like crazy cash flow. Like, all said and done, we ultimately lost money on that thing, but because we had to do redo the roof, we had to redo the heating and air, like all that stuff, like wipes out your cash flow for years, especially if you're in single family. So, but it just opened our eyes to the potential. And then from there, we got into some Robert Kiyosaki training. That was probably the biggest mistake we made, but it kept us going in the right direction. And then from there, we just always kept an eye on it. No, we weren't 100% ready to get into it right then, because the next 4 or so years after we moved and started running that place out, I was very focused on becoming a pilot in the military. But along that journey, my wife was interested in real estate. She was looking for something that she could do on the side with all the moving going on. I'll let her tell about that. And so she got into some real estate stuff, and then it kind of snowballed from there. So I'll let her tell you about that piece, and then we'll talk about how we got into multifamily.
Yeah. I had thought I wanted to get into real estate in some way, shape, or form. Wasn't exactly sure how. Figured everybody starts probably as a realtor. And before just jumping in both feet and just doing the realtor thing, I wanted to almost like apprentice with an established team. So that's what I did. I was hired on as an executive assistant for a sales team based in Utah. Such a great experience, learned so much. I'm really finding now it's helped me a lot with just like negotiations and, all that sort of thing. So really great experience. But working with that team for just shy of 4 years started to really pique my interest into getting into commercial. I loved how investors thought. I obviously saw, cash flow they were making and whatnot. And so wanted to transition into that more. As Nate was mentioning, our first single family home rental, we saw very quickly how, you're 100% vacant if your place is empty, and that hurts. And that can usually be a pretty big amount of money a month. And so had started just seeing the power of having multiple doors. And so thought, wow, it's kind of a big thing to think about getting into apartment investing. How do you start? How do you crack into this industry? And Nate really encouraged me to get into it, just kind of quit my job, jump full bore into it. And so that's what I did at the beginning of 2019, just kind of made a clean break with that job, and made it my intention in 2019 to network, read as much as I could. We got into real estate coaching program, but the biggest aspect for me was the networking part and just finding those people that were actively doing deals and kind of latched onto them. I actually met our current business partner on Facebook in a Facebook group. And so I like telling people that story, that you're never going to know where you meet them. And now I call him my big brother in real estate. And so that's pretty crazy. But yeah, so by the end of 2019, we'd found and closed on our first asset in Southern Arizona. It's been getting stabilized this year. It's now fully stabilized. We just finished all the CapEx for it. And so that's been incredibly rewarding. And now we're working on our next deals. We're actually in a bidding war right now on one, also in Arizona. So excited for the future. And it's such a fulfilling industry, really.
Yeah, definitely. And then one thing I want to bring up to you about kind of how we got to the multifamily space. So we were kind of going down, how we do wholesaling, we do flipping. Like, a lot of people start thinking small. Started listening to Grant Cardone and started seeing him doing the math on his real estate podcast. I was like, hey, more doors makes sense. And from there, she mentioned we met our partner through Facebook, and he did a Facebook Live one day. He was talking about a deal he just closed. I'm like, well, I probably can't get Grant on the phone, but that guy will probably talk to me. So we did a Zoom call, and he was like, well, the next step is you need to go to this conference. I'm going to be there. I'll introduce you to some people. And just kind of following that journey, we ended up partnering with him and found our partner that way. And so it's pretty cool how that all played out and kind of how we got to where we are today. We're just super excited about, building this empire.
Wow. Such a great story, you guys. Thank you for going into so much detail too, because I think that's really what our listeners are looking for, is like, how do you get to a point where now you're in a bidding war for apartment complex in Arizona, in a state that you don't even live in? It's great stuff. So, but let's back up a little bit, right? I want to talk a little bit more about, first of all, how you guys both, what the conversations were like back at home when you both decided, you know what, let's start doing this multifamily thing. Because I heard a little bit from Bethany. I also heard some from Nate too. That Nate was like listening to Grant Cardone too. So obviously there was some sort of alignment there. So can you maybe walk us through what that conversation was when you first got started?
Yeah. So the beginning or the end of 2018, he had started badgering me to quit my job and was like, "Hey, you're stressed out a lot. You work a lot." I was working 6, sometimes 7 days a week. Just not, it was a great job, but a lot of stress and a lot of activity, a lot of volume. And so he kind of started at me, I think in August or something, and just putting the idea in there. And then he kept ordering books off Amazon and was like, "Hey, you should read this. Hey, you should listen to Grant Cardone and his podcast." And by October timeframe, I was like, all right, yeah, I'm ready to make that mental shift, but I want to make a clean break and finish the season of my job well before I get started in something else. So it wasn't like an overnight decision by any means.
Yeah. But the biggest thing was like, we knew like being in her role in the real estate space wasn't the ultimate goal. We saw it as a stepping stone ultimately. And I really pushed her at that time to make that transition because I was still active duty military. We still had a good income coming in. I could support a year of her just focusing on multifamily because technically, really, we're just now starting to see some of the income coming in from it. One thing about multifamily, it can take a while to get the income going and start making actual cash. Like we got equity and things like that. But we really haven't seen a ton of profits yet. A lot of it's just sitting in those
We're
properties.
Refinancing that deal
So that's
a year after closing it, and that will close next month.
Yeah, so that's one component of it. But I was able to support that, and so that was why I did the big push on that. And then we transitioned out of active duty, and we had to find something else, which led us to the business we're in now. But yeah, we're just love multifamily. It just made sense. It clicked, and I'm really good about dragging her into things and saying, "You're great, go get it." She can probably tell you a few stories that I've done that.
That's a true leader right there.
I'm the visionary.
Hey,
She's the integrator.
we need to do this. Now I'm going to delegate it. So
Yeah, and I love you guys sound like you're so aligned in just vision and everything you do. And I'm curious, you guys are known now as the Cashflow Couple. So can you walk us through how you guys got to that point?
Sure.
And it is actually your Cashflow Couple because the Cashflow Couple was taken.
Oh, sorry.
We like your anyway.
Yeah, either one's fine. But the domain name was your Cashflow Couple. So yeah, how do we get started? So I've always been a big dreamer since I was a kid. I wanted to be a fighter pilot in the military. Didn't quite make that goal come true. I got close. I fly cargo planes now, C-130s. But I've always been a dreamer. I have big goals and dreams. And so I was like, I had to figure out something to accomplish those goals and dreams. And the military wasn't going to be the ultimate vehicle to make those dreams come true. So I decided to go Air National Guard. Allows me to do the military part-time, be able to pursue other goals and dreams. And along the way, I've always been like big into personal development. We did Amway like right after we got married, which was great because we got into like personal development, got around like great mindsets. We would drive an hour one way for a meeting. We had no intention of ever building the business. We just liked the environment. And we started reading good books and things like that. And then I started listening to Grant Cardone. I loved him immediately. She couldn't stand him for the longest time. And the biggest thing I think that got us in alignment, and
I like him now.
I'll start this and I'll let her pick it up, is I'm a little bit more materialistic in my goals. I want to help people. It drives me nuts when I see like opportunities and I can't really write a significant check to make a difference other than I can drop my $10 in or $100 in. But I have some like other material goals. Like I want to own a fighter jet. I want to own cool things like that. But for her, it was very different. So she could never like wrap her head around these material goals. And Grant's obviously very kind of materialistic in the things he talks about. And showy and things like that. And so the biggest thing I did to help bring her along was, and to get us in alignment, was for several years, I'll just ask the question, like, if you had all the money, what would you do with it? Would you retire your parents? Would you, what is philanthropic? What are the things that was important for her? Like if she had, what are the options that she could do? And then we found that out. And so I'll let her kind of pick up on what we discovered there, but that was the biggest component.
I think when he switched his pitch, if you will, from what would you do if you had that money to what would you do if you had that time, that made a big difference to me because at the time I was working, like I said, a lot and fairly stressful job. And by him saying, how would you spend your day? I'm like, I don't know. What the heck? Working? And he's like, no, just what would you do? And got up? Who would you spend time with? Who would you be giving to either monetarily or if you're doing volunteer stuff? And that started to open the perspective a little bit more. I think from my background, I just felt in a way almost like it was wrong to think that I could be like fully retired at a young age, and maybe not consciously wrong, but just subconsciously, I'm not sure really where that came from. But when I started thinking about that, I'm like, oh man, I want to take care of my parents. I'd like to give to this organization. I'd like to volunteer with this. I'd like to go on mission trips, stuff like that. So that opened up my perspective quite a bit, because at the end of the day, money doesn't solve all your problems, but it certainly gives you options. And oftentimes, to be able to contribute in a big way, you do need money, to be able to help those tangible needs and basic needs that so many people need. So that really helped a lot.
Yep. And then also too, the other big thing was, as far as getting in alignment. So we knew, that was the biggest thing for me. Like, I knew what I wanted to accomplish. I needed to do some pretty significant to be able to accomplish some of the goals. I had to figure out what was important to her. And once we got on alignment and on the same path, like, we have different reasons why we're doing what we're doing, but we're on the same tracks going in the same direction. Her track has a little bit different reason than mine does, but it's the same track in alignment. And that's kind of where your cash flow came along. One of our goals was, as a couple, we wanted to be, not just successful business people, but also be an inspirational couple to other couples to, how can you guys, there's a lot of couples out there probably would love to work together and figure out how to build a life together beyond just you do your job and I do my job and we kind of come together at the end of the day, which honestly, Grant was a huge inspiration for that. And that was kind of the switching point for her, is once she started seeing Elena and the kids and how they do everything together and they travel together, like, okay, that's what I latch onto. And so we just wanted to be an inspiration for that. So your cash flow couple is all about finance, money, which finance is one of the biggest stressors in relationships. One of the reasons why we really like that component as well. And then just wanting to be an inspiration for other couples that, hey, we can do it, you can do it, we want to help you do it.
That's so great, you guys. I think that what people should mostly take away from this, who are looking to be in a situation where it's symbiotic, you guys are both working with each other's strengths and together you're achieving far more than you could individually. I think that what you said about seeing a model that worked, like getting the inspiration, it seems like that was kind of a light bulb that went off, right, Bethany? That really helped.
Yeah, for sure. I think a pivotal moment that changed my mindset specifically that I recall is, it was the weekend of Growth Con 2 that Grant Cardone hosts in Vegas, and it was several years ago, but I had thrown my back out or hurt my neck or something where I was like laid up in bed, and Nate was like, well, we're going to live stream Growth Con. And this is a time where I can't really stand Grant Cardone. I'm like, oh my gosh. But two things, I heard him talk very clearly about his mission and purpose in life, Grant, that is. And he was just, so authentic and very real, and talked about his dad that died when he was pretty young and how he'd been changed his lifestyle. He'd been hooked on drugs and all this stuff. That really struck a chord. And then also Ed Milet, which is actually one of our current business mentors, amazing human being. He spoke at GrowthCon 2, and just heard him and his story and his vision and how much he gives back. And so those two things just really changed my perspective. I remember that experience very clearly.
Wow, fantastic, you guys. It's great stuff. Really good. I think there was also something that Sophie was mentioning to me the other day about trees and the analogy of trees versus how the ability to give. Maybe do you want to touch on what that was?
Yeah. So it's an analogy that I give often when I talk to my patients about health. It's like, when you imagine yourself as a tree, the trunk should be the health part, right? And all the branches are just pretty much everything else, like business. And so you can't have your branch grow bigger than your trunk, or the trunk itself is going to split in half. That was sort of like the health equals wealth kind of equation. And so, but we want, when we're talking to other couples and, to all of our listeners, that we want to emphasize that the health of the couple, the health of the relationship, that the foundation you set, and it sounds like you guys have really achieved it, is going to sustain, and it's going to help push you guys further than you ever dreamed possible.
And in all directions too, not just financial, but spiritual, relationship wise, all the other goals that you set, right? Because if you have a strong foundation of health and relationships, everything else can kind of foster from that. Because what happens if the branch grows too big, then you end up with not a very healthy tree.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a great analogy.
It's so true that you really have to focus on the foundational basics before you can expand and have a good shot at making good money. Two things that are very basic for us: our faith is a bedrock for us. We're non-denominational evangelical Christians. And the other thing is, as you mentioned, Sophie, the making sure you take care of your marriage. Like, at the end of the day, it's our marriage primarily. And sometimes when we're working, we get so caught up, and it's like 6-7 days a week. We love what we do, but it's a lot of work. We're working at least 12, 16-hour days most times. And we can get kind of just so focused on that we don't really take the time to do the day. So we've been deliberate about a couple of things, especially lately, because we kind of noticed this the end of last year, that we needed to focus on a little bit more. We've incorporated date night a lot more, strictly. So we make sure we do something that's non-business related. We can connect, go out to dinner, whatever, go to walk on the beach or something like that. And then the other thing is that we just actually started doing, I don't know that we'd ever really done it before. We've been married 11 years and we went away for our anniversary just for a couple nights. And that made a huge difference. Just so our anniversary is at the beginning of the year, it's January 2nd. And so that's kind of nice timing too, because we can kind of get away for a couple of days at the beginning of the year and be like, okay, this reflect on the previous year, what went well, what went didn't, what we accomplished, what we want to accomplish for the coming year, and set those goals and everything. But that's actually made a huge difference for like our momentum this month, and that, which I'm sure will carry into the next, the remaining of the year. We love momentum. So it's like, but we hadn't really been very intentional about doing those types of things before. Just kind of like, oh, we'll hang out, or hey, we'll do this. But now we're trying to be very intentional about it.
Yeah, and then incorporating that at least like once a quarter, even if it's like getting away for like one night, just getting it disconnected from like, we work at home, we have an office too, but like everywhere, our environment that we're in every single day is all business somehow connected. So like at least once a quarter, like completely stepping away, going to another city, staying one night or even 2 nights, and just kind of disconnecting and thinking about, okay, let's take a step back and think about what's important to us. Are we prioritizing those things, and then come back and get after it?
Yeah, it's amazing how much changing your environment can make a difference. Just changing
massive.
the physical environment is like really key. So
yeah, so key. I'm so glad you guys brought that up, because I think it's something that's overlooked, like just sort of that pattern interrupt, right? And I'm curious too, when you guys are going off on date night or getting away, are you making it intentional not to talk about business, or does it kind of creep in sometimes?
Careful, this is be in trouble, you guys.
No,
uh-oh.
we definitely still talk business. It's just a different talking about business. On the day-to-day, we're talking about the day-to-day operations, the day-to-day, tracking this person or this client, that sort of stuff. When we get away, it's more of like, okay, let's take a step back from big picture, because the business is a huge part of what we do, and it's fueling all the other things that are important to us. So it's taking a step back and say, how are we prioritizing our business, and how is it fitting into getting us to our goals? Are we taking what do we need to shift to be able to keep getting direction in the right direction? And then we also try to incorporate other important conversations as well, but we don't like, we're not going to talk about business at all. We're completely exclude it, because it's part of who we are and what we're all about. It's a very important fabric of our lives. So it's just taking a different perspective and different type of a conversation around it.
And I would say that both of our businesses are very relational based. So with multifamily, we have a team there, property manager and everything, and love that team. And then the WFG, our World Financial Services business, is all team. And so for me, especially as a woman, I know maybe not all women are like this, but I love the relational aspect that we can talk about, grew closer to this person, or we had this kind of confrontation, work that out. So for me, it doesn't ever really feel like it's just a work conversation, if that makes sense. Like it's just the mechanics and logistics of like work, but it's actually like personal development is a huge part of that, and team development, leadership, and multifamily side, negotiations, and oh, this broker said a funny thing or something. So it's like, it doesn't necessarily feel like work talk. Like I can't even really quantify in my head how much of our conversations are work versus just overall kind of lifestyle, I guess. So that's good, which I guess probably is the case for many entrepreneurs. It's kind of a big picture thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for shedding some light on that. Also, I want to, just give our listeners even more of a peek behind the curtains. I'm wondering, what are your daily routines look like your morning routine? What are like some non-negotiable rituals, just things that you have to do to make sure that you're on your game every day?
For me, I'll tell you the things I try to do every single day. I try to, it's a couple of things that I really try to focus on is, try to avoid social media or my phone in the morning and the evening. Gotten less than that lately, but that's a goal of mine, is to be more intentional about control, especially the first 30 and the last 30 minutes of my day. So first 30 minutes a day is more focused on maybe some reading, maybe some prayer, exercise, try to get those key important things that are so health related things first. And then I dive into my day. So that's, I would say that's the biggest thing for me is focus on things that are health. Don't get distracted the beginning, and the same thing at the end of the day. Really try to focus on maybe reading a book again, or just trying to disconnect from all the distractions. Those are the two big things for me.
Yeah, basically the same as what he mentioned. It's crucial for me to spend time in my Bible every morning. Like I have to have that fill up, that time with God. This year I'm trying to memorize a verse a week, and that's been huge for me, that those come to mind in difficult circumstances or whatnot. So that for me is really crucial. Try to drink a good amount of water in the morning. Try to protect, like Nate said, that first 30 to 45 minutes at the beginning and the end of the day. Just feel like that's a great bookend. I think that concept I first heard about from Ed Milet. He's like, you've got to protect the bookends of your day so that the rest of your day can function, the way it should. So then at night, try to cut off screen time, half hour, 40 minutes before bed, have a cup of tea, glass of wine, read a book with actual pages. Just helps me unwind a lot and kind of set that scene for the next day. And I've really found how that it doesn't, like, just getting a jump on the day, getting a jump on it so that you feel like you're more capable of handling everything that comes up, I guess.
And it's all about just being more proactive versus reactive. Try to have like a thing called a power list, like 4 or 5 key things that I will do every single day and making sure those things get done.
Very cool. Good practical tips for our audience. And I can see that you guys have been leveraging that to success. So that's great. So let's talk about that success. I want to talk about your guys's, we're going to make a shift now into multifamily, and we're going to start talking about mechanics and about how this all works, right? Because there's a lot of listeners out there. They're like, okay, cool. These guys are awesome. I'm going to do everything that they said, but now let's talk about how to actually do it and start executing on some multifamily, right? So how did you guys get started with your very first multifamily deal? Maybe can you just walk us through like how you were able to obtain it, where you were in your lives, and just kind of paint a picture for the listeners out there?
Yeah, for sure. So as I said, I quit my job beginning 2019. And as Nate was mentioning earlier, our business partner that I'd met on Facebook, to backtrack a few months before that, got into this Facebook group. My business partner was doing a lot of Facebook live videos in the group, and it had like several thousand people in it. And it's kind of like a investing, personal development type group. And so a lot of the Facebook live videos were oriented around personal development things like working out every day, reading books, yada, yada, yada. And the challenge that was set forth was do a Facebook live video every day. That freaked me out at first. But I remember having the thought, if I want to get to know this guy and the other people in the group that are actively investing, I need to get uncomfortable and put myself out there a little bit. And that's so basic and crucial, I think, to any new endeavor you're going to do. You need to put yourself in uncomfortable situations to grow. And it's amazing the first time you do it, how that's gonna blossom and be like, oh man, I did that. Then the next phase is easy. But I remember on my third video, I think, I was on a treadmill in the gym and I was going to document my working out. And I remember I had been playing around with the little filters and I had accidentally selected a filter and I did not think it would pop up, but it did. So I started my video and there's this goofy filter of like heavy makeup and Estee Lauder on it. And I thought, oh no. And I was about to kill it. And then like this mortgage lender I knew that was pretty big in the space popped on. And then this other operator that does like thousands of units popped on. And I thought, oh no. So I just finished the video, did my little blurb. I was like, oh, I can't just quit it. I look like an idiot. But then it started a chain reaction in the group where everybody started doing Facebook Live videos with filters.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And it was so funny. He was deployed at the time. So it was a nice, like, just a funny break for like 30 days, seeing all these filter videos come out. So that was fun. But yeah, really putting myself out there, number one, that was crucial in helping start leveraging the network that I was getting into. Multifamily network isn't super huge. It's kind of a small world and a lot of the same people. And so that was really key to just kind of put myself out there. And then we went to an event that was recommended to us for multifamily investing, met a lot of those same people there and other amazing people, many of whom I consider our second family now. So the networking piece was so huge to that. Did a lot of education. So listening to podcasts. I know Joe Fairless was one I listened to a lot at the beginning. Grant Cardone. There's a handful of others, but those are the two. Rod Khleif was another one. So those three listened to significantly. Read books, as I mentioned, Joe Fairless's book, Grant Cardone's little book on multifamily investing, and then a lot of personal development. Read a lot of personal development like Atomic Habits, James Clear, High Performance Success Habits. I think that's Brendan Burchard, bringing out the best in people, just like all the, John Maxwell books. I had a goal that year to read a book a week. I think I hit 36, so not quite a book a week. But I just was like pouring myself into it, And as I said, he was deployed. We don't have kids. I was on my own. Like I didn't have a lot of time on my hands too. So, and then to start the multifamily search, I picked 4 markets at first, which was kind of a mistake. It's too many, especially for starting out. I quickly found that out because I was just starting to struggle with the amount of contacts I had, whether it was sellers or buyers. And, really the first thing you want to do in a new market is obtain a list of property owners and brokers. And you can get those lists from multiple sources, Reonomy, CoStar, title companies, List Source, wherever. But I quickly determined, okay, I need to kind of pare down a little bit and focus on one, maybe two markets exclusively. And then I also basically made a commitment to my business partner to kind of leverage him and his experience and his track record in specific market and talk about myself to brokers and sellers in the market as my partner and I own assets. My partner and I own an apartment complex with his full permission. But he was like, hey, I have access to these things. I need someone to help me find more deals because I don't have the time. How about we partner up and find one? So it took about 8 months from start to when we went under contract on our first deal. And as soon as I focused on 1 to 2 markets, really, and then kind of having that mental commitment of like, okay, this is my partner for the time being, and we're going to hit this hard for 30 days to see what comes of it. Also doing a lot of follow-up was really key. So following up with sellers and brokers and just like going out there, I think I counted at least a dozen trips to target markets in 2019. So I was out there quite a bit. I was meeting with people. I'd go in brokers' offices. I try to take them to dinner or coffee, stuff like that. And I just call them every couple of weeks. Hey, it's me again. Just want to see if you had anything come up, if you're whatever, and really trying to offer value to them. So whether that's through offering referrals or helping to connect them with other people in some way. I remember one seller I talked to, she was like, hey, do you know anybody that, she's looking for some sort of attorney. And I was like, no, I don't, but let me find out. So I worked my network a little bit and found a handful of good contacts for her and called her back. She was like, I never expected you to call me back, but thank you. That's awesome. So it's like trying to, offer value as much as you can as well. But yeah, those are probably the most tangible things, I would say.
That's good. Yeah. So let's jump forward to that. And now you've got a point where you're reaching out with brokers. And, I'm trying to paint a picture for our listeners where you've talked with brokers, you're getting some deal flow coming in, or people are presenting things to you. How is underwriting like? And how did the underwriting piece go? Because I know that there's a lot of people out there that can be one of the most daunting things. And obviously you worked your way through that either, with the help of your partner or on your own. Maybe he was depending on you to do that, or maybe you and Nate teamed up. Can you guys talk a little bit about that aspect? Because it's very, like I said, it's very intimidating for a lot of people to work on that part.
Yeah, so we definitely done the basic education of how to underwrite a deal. So I could spit off probably 4 or 5 different analyzer programs I have that are basically glorified Excel sheets, YouTube videos that go along with those. Some of them out there are free. Some of them you have to pay for. I think you had bought one of them.
Yep.
Yeah, he had bought one back earlier in 2018. He actually started the movement. I mean, he was trying to start underwriting deals and whatnot when I was still working. So kind of had a baseline understanding and education, then started to learn more about it, attended a lot of underwriting sessions that the Facebook group I was in, I mentioned earlier, was hosting. I'm part of an organization now called Multifamily Masters. I'm on the leadership team for. We do underwriting sessions to teach people how. So if you kind of reach out and start making those connections, you're going to find some help in getting some help with underwriting. The biggest thing I can say, though, that I see so many people shoot themselves in the foot is their response time. So they try to just go down the rabbit hole and underwrite every single little expense down to the penny. And it actually kills their momentum, and they'll probably lose out on the deal if it takes you any more than even like 12 hours. Like, it seems like a really short window, but if you get a phone call and saying, hey, this deal's coming up, what do you think? You better be able to do a quick back of the napkin equation, or put it through like a simple analyzer spreadsheet product and be able to have like a soft number to at least start the negotiation. And then once you're under contract, or maybe at least verbally have it locked up, you can keep going that next layer, deeper layer, or just kind of have your verbal number there. And then during the negotiation process, doing the LOI and everything like that, you can get to more of a concrete number. And then things may always change along the due diligence process. So, the number that you're under contract for, you may have to retrade. There may be something that comes up that, and by retrade, I mean negotiate a lower price. So something may come up. The property we got, we ended up spending $13,000 to $14,000 just on the sprinkler system, because all the sprinklers had been painted over. And so that was a significant expense for us that we had to go back to the seller and say, hey, we need a concession for these, because we had no idea. It's a really significant expense. So Yeah, but I would say definitely speeds of the essence and then being responsive to whoever brought you the deal. So as soon as they send it to you, get back to them right away, keep them kind of in the loop of what's going on. And then if you're not going to move forward with an offer on it, tell them why. Tell them why it didn't fit your criteria. It's too old, it's too small, bad part of town, whatever, but give them feedback. It's just really respectful, especially if it's a broker, so they can kind of gauge and see what investors' feeling is on a specific property so they know how to price it.
Yeah. And I think another component too that I want to highlight with that is, you mentioned earlier, we started with a lot of markets and we realized it's too much. Being very focused on like one market. Maybe you start with like 4 or 5 so you learn how to analyze different markets. And once you learn how to analyze markets, pick one and go all in on that. Because when you do get a deal, you need to analyze it fast. You need to know that market. You need to know the numbers of that market, whether it's construction costs, rehab costs, all that sort of stuff. So you can actually run an accurate underwriting quickly. Versus if you're in multiple markets and someone, maybe you get a deal, maybe you're more focused in San Antonio right now, but you get a deal offered in Atlanta. Well, if you haven't been really attuned with Atlanta, it may take you too long to underwrite that deal. Now it's gone. You lost that 12-hour window or 24-hour window. So that's another key point we really figured out quickly is one. And I would say this is probably the number one thing that we've seen as we've talked to different people trying to get into the real estate multifamily game is they spend so much time on multiple markets. They don't pick one and just get laser focused. Because one thing we've figured out is there's a good deal in every single market. You find it when you get focused on that market. It may take you a little while. The deal we ultimately got, she initially met that owner a few months prior to that and just built a relationship over time to the point it was like, okay, I'll sell it to you. And that's really kind of how it came down to. So.
Mm-hmm. Wow, you guys, great advice there. Like all of that you just went into, there's so much there that even experienced syndicators can pick up on some of that knowledge. So thank you guys for sharing. It's really great. And I agree with all of it. I think the key points there to focus on is treat brokers and treat the people that you're working with as if you'd want to be treated, right? If you just don't respond to someone after they give you a chance, right? And say, okay, well, we'll give this guy like an off-market deal. We'll give him a chance to look at it. Put yourself in their shoes. If they're going to give you a chance to look at it before someone else does, that means that there's a level of trust there where they're giving you exclusive time to look at this thing and decide whether or not you want it before anyone else does. So they could be just going and listing it, right? But they specifically gave it to you. So you got to respect that time so much, right? That's exactly what I think. And then the other thing is not spending too much time underwriting and being in analysis paralysis for things. Because, whenever I'm talking people through how to do single families, right? The first thing I tell them to do is get good at underwriting, understand how to do it in one market, do it well, right? Pick a neighborhood, pick a zone, and just stay in that zone and underwrite a whole bunch of property there. And next thing is in single family, do it so that it's in a column in a spreadsheet. Because if it's in a column in a spreadsheet, you have automated cells and you've got automation there. So you type in a few numbers, right? And then you can compare side to side very quickly. That way, there's less inertia and you're able to move through deals and you're able to give feedback either to yourself or to an agent or broker or whoever it is that you're working with on the transaction very quickly and efficiently. Some advice for people out there, which I think you drove home, and I'm just kind of wanting to re-highlight because it's that important. So thank you very much for sharing.
No, that's great. Yeah. Applies to multifamily, single family. Yeah. All that.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. So, all right, let's talk about a couple more things before we start wrapping up here and heading into the final segment of the show. I wanted to ask you guys, everyone has a superpower. Everyone's got one, right? And that's the benefit of working together with your spouse is that you get to leverage 2 superpowers for the same effort, right?
No.
So can you guys talk about a little bit more about what your individual superpowers are and how you've been able to leverage it into success in either multifamily or, in Nate's case, your business?
I would say my biggest superpower is I'm really good about learning things quickly and then teaching somebody else to do it. In our business, a big part of our financial services business is duplicating myself. So I want to develop a lot of agents. I want to build a lot of brokerages around the country. In order to be able to do that, I need to be able to transfer my skill to somebody else. So that's a big deal for me. And I feel like I'm pretty good at doing that. So yeah, I would say that's my pick one. That's my biggest superpower, especially when I'm focused on developing the most.
Yeah, and I'll second that. He's taught himself how to do video editing extremely quickly, digital marketing, funnel building, flying planes. Like he's just kind of puts his nose to the grindstone and learns how to do it really quickly.
That's great, Nate. And I also get the feeling that you like to delegate a lot as well. So you've got the combination of here's how.
I love that. Yes, I prefer I love helping people and I love doing the work, but I love even more teaching other people to do it and helping other people achieve success and more being in that leadership kind of mentorship type role. And so that's my jam. That's where I like to be.
One of the first memories I have of getting married, we'd only been married maybe a month or two, and I was out in the front yard trying to dig up a tree stump with a shovel, and he comes through with like a chainsaw and some acid or something and was like, just dump it in here, work smarter, not harder. I was like, rude, but then that's always stuck with me.
Efficiencies. I love it, figuring out what's the most efficient way we can do something.
Lived in Georgia, so gasoline and chainsaws make sense.
Nate's a pragmatic guy. That's all I can say right now. Awesome. What about you, Bethany?
I would say mediating conflict. I actually kind of enjoy conflict in a lot of ways, and the opportunity to help do something that's most people run from. And I don't mind difficult conversations. I feel like everything can be mediated if you're like respectful and, honest. And
I agree with that 100%. She's my mediator.
She gives me the phone a lot. Like, can you handle?
I can imagine a lot of the sticky situations in your agent business that probably came up a lot, and you were able to flex that muscle pretty well when you were dealing with individuals.
For sure. Client stuff, agent stuff. She's been a huge asset in that sense. And it's just another highlight. We're talking about couples working together. Like, we both bring different strengths to the table. Mm-hmm. And I definitely would not be able to achieve what I'm achieving without her, and likewise.
Vice versa.
100%. Yeah, I completely agree. Same here with me. And one thing I wanted to add there before, I know Sophie wants to ask a question, but one thing I wanted to add is that there's a Jim Rohn quote that says, the quality of your communication determines the quality of your life. And if you can pick up those skills of mediating, negotiating, influencing, which is all the things that both of you guys are doing in being leaders and also being marketers and showing people how to do things, and also doing Facebook Lives with filters on, all of those things are really, really, really feed into your communication style. And as you develop your communication skills, the quality of your life just goes up. And I never really understood that back when I first heard that. Like, I got it at a very logical level, but I didn't really get it until this started happening. The situation that we're in right now, where we're doing podcasts, we're more visible, and we're able to convey our messages clearly and articulately. So I think that's really important. So I just wanted to add that on because it's something that a lot of people can take as a maxim to live life by.
Yeah, yep. That's good.
Yep. I feel like so many of us are fueled by emotion. And if you can learn to control your emotion and just think a lot more pragmatically, I have not always been that way. I would say the last couple of years, I really had to kind of train myself and pour into, a lot of personal development things and whatnot. But you can kind of see through the situation and focus on the relationship first. And how can we save this relationship, and, just come at it from that angle. And as long as everybody stays focused on the conversation and has a common goal that we want to, some people are going to say, throw up their hands, storm out. Screw you, not want to ever, not want to have that conversation. Of course, then it can't happen.
Right. And that's poor quality, poor communication, right? And then that will lead to poor life. So it's important to amp up the game in your communication, really give it an effort, because clearly it's been working well for you guys. You guys have all these assets that you're working on right now and just have a lot to show for it. So congratulations, guys.
Yeah,
absolutely. Congratulations. And so, Bethany, this question is for you specifically. So a lot of our listeners are couples for sure, but they may be females that are being dragged to listen by their male counterparts because there's like women talking about real estate, right? So what advice can you give to our female listeners who are just beginning, or who may be intimidated, who may not have the confidence to enter the real estate investing space because historically it's been, the preconception is that it's more male dominated, that there's so many numbers, that it's just not female friendly. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Sure. I think 100% it does factor in such a huge amount for the spouse. Let's say, for the sake of example, it's the male that is bringing the wife into, let's say, real estate. For the male to have the conversation with the wife, like we were talking about earlier, that Nate had with me, and really trying to hone in on how can we align. Maybe it's not with real estate or specific industry, but where are we going as a couple? I think everybody gets really excited about the idea of having some common goal. I think for most couples, it's probably their kids, their kids are their common goal. And we think and feel like it's so fulfilling to have another goal. We don't have kids currently, but even if we did have kids, to have another goal outside of that, whether it's a business, maybe it's serving together in a mission ministry type setting, maybe it's volunteering together somewhere, but you then share the same contacts. You can kind of talk about the similar type things. And so I think that's important to have that, figure out how you can align and have very honest, authentic conversations without getting heated about it. Not saying, well, you always and you never and stuff like that, but really try to have a grown up, emotionally mature conversation about where can we go together and how can we accomplish our dreams together and have that fact finding conversation about what are our dreams? What would we like to be doing? What would we like to accomplish? And who can we help? And then the other aspect I would say is I initially felt a little convicted about being a big cheerleader for Nate and wanting to see him succeed and be really happy. I don't know about all husbands, but when Nate isn't feeling like fulfilled and challenged and like he's enjoying his pursuits, he's not very much fun to be around. So I prefer him to be in a setting that he enjoys and feels challenged and can have wins and everything like that. And so when I realized that, I wanted to be as 100% in his corner as I could be. It breaks my heart when I see wives be like how I've been in the past, but sitting in the corner kind of huffy, or I'm not coming down to that networking thing. It's awkward and they're all your friends or whatever. I started to make intentional contributions to his social circle, to what he was learning. I didn't like it at first. It was a little awkward. It was new terminology. I didn't know much, but I just wanted to put myself in his corner and know the same contacts he was talking to, learn the same things he was learning so that we'd have more to talk about in some ways. And so I would say those two things were really key.
Yeah. And one thing I'll just add that we've done is the alignment of goals. Like where do we want to go as a family? Like how do we want to raise our kids? Do we want them to go to the best schools? Do we want to be able to take them on crazy vacations and great experiences and all that sort of stuff? If whatever that goal looks like, that happens to be it. Getting alignment of how do we contribute to reaching that goal? So I feel like with multifamily or in anything really, there's definitely multiple components and different roles that you can fulfill. And figure out what role do I feel like I can fulfill the best, and then being open to expand into other roles as well. Like you may start in one role, but hey, I'm gonna go try this other role. Okay, do I like it? No, I don't like it. No, I'll try this other role, and figure out where you fit in the best. Like for us, like I said, I'm more big picture integrator, but like we do like, even in like events, like you will never see us sit next to each other at a real estate event, we might sit next to, but very rarely because we're working in the room. Like, you got that side of the room, I got this side of the room. We meet back together and
delegating again.
How many cars did you get?
I love it.
No. We're competing on how many cars did we get?
Authentic
connections, things like that. So that's the other thing too, is figuring out like really leveraging the fact you're two individuals that can really divide and conquer in a lot of ways. A lot of times we see this where if there is a couple involved, it's usually one is like the main getter and the other one's just kind of there to support. They're supportive, but they're just there. But if you can figure out a way to play a role and like add value to the growth, you can 10x your efforts and get there a lot faster. So
yeah, I would agree with that 100%. It was very important for me. Like last year, transitioning in the multifamily space, I had quit my job. I wasn't making an income, which for me was hard. I've always made an income in our married life. At times I've been the breadwinner when he was in flight training and whatnot. So it was kind of an identity thing I dealt with that year. Like, oh man, I'm not even bringing in money, I have kids. Like I was like, this is an identity issue. So having the real estate business kind of developed to a point where that is kind of my baby now. That is my main focus. But then also finding a role in like our financial services business. At first, it was basically his thing. It was going to be his thing. I was going to focus exclusively on real estate. And then the more we've grown it, I'm like, oh, well, you need to do this. Oh my God. And then my OCD takes over and control freak. And I'm like, we need to take care of this thing. And then I kind of started shifting into a role where I was like, I can do that. I can help do that. And so that's been really key, where it's like to be able to partner but yet each have our individual pursuits and interests too is very important. So you can kind of maintain your individuality, but then have that shared work too.
Wow, thank you guys. Like this is so much good stuff here. Like so much good. Like I personally have gone through some therapy right now as well, marriage counseling. So I really appreciate that. One thing I wanted to highlight there too, that was subtle. It was mentioned, but it was really subtle and really powerful, is that because this has happened to me too. Sometimes, especially men, have to say that too. Men sometimes they're not as self-aware as women are. Women are really good at perceiving and reading things. Like they have intuitions that men just kind of, they don't have the wiring for. And it took me many years to understand how unhappy I was doing what I was doing. And listening to my wife and like really building that relationship, it's another way that you can leverage your other person's skill set to say, this doesn't look right to you. And when something's not in place and it's kind of out of place, then the machine isn't working as efficiently as it could. And it actually starts holding you back. And then there's resentment going back and forth. And so again, it goes back to the communication, but I think leveraging the skills and someone that's really in your court with you. I'm not saying a cheerleader, but I'm saying a partner, right? In both your marriage and in your business, to be able to have the honesty and point out things to you is already worth its weight in gold. That's really a key thing. And that's something that Sophie and I have really been benefiting from, is the frank communication back and forth and understanding when someone's not fulfilled, that gets communicated. Like, it doesn't seem you're enjoying in this, let's make a change or let's try something. And after those changes are made, like just for me, I didn't even realize that I was holding myself back or feeling sad. And then I just felt like $1 million times better. So
It's almost like a mirror, like she's a mirror for you in some ways.
100%. She knows me better than I know myself in a lot of different ways. And that's, it's really,
That's a great point, because, I mean, she's definitely there's been instances where she's like, I don't feel good about that. And there have been times where we respected that and we made an appropriate choice because of that. And other times we didn't. And we look back, oh yeah, we should have trusted our gut or trusted our intuition. And usually it's her intuition, but.
Again, same thing here. Yep.
Very cool.
Right. Well, very cool, you guys. This has been so much fun. We really, really appreciate it. We're about to head into the rapid round part of the show. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask you guys 5 questions that we ask all of our guests. And so what we like to do is we like to document them down and put them in a spreadsheet and compare, because that's what we do. No, I'm just kidding.
Awesome. Cool.
But yeah. So question number 1 in the rapid round: what book has had the biggest impact on you and why? And that's to you individually.
All right. Mine probably, I would say, I could pick several, but I'll probably pick the best one is probably Max Out Your Life by Ed Milet. Reason being, it's short, it's to the point, it's very tactical, it's very specific on actual steps you can change to really improve your life. So that's probably the biggest impact it's had on me. It's been something that I've applied very heavily in everything that we've done. I consider him one of my main mentors in a lot of the different areas. So definitely, if I was going to pick one, I'll grab that one.
All right, cool. And Bethany?
Yeah, aside from the good book, I'm trying to think, because so many have made real impact in different areas of my life, let's say. But John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, I think it's called. That's a big one for me. I love the kind of interpersonal skill type leadership, team development theme. And that's been really key, because at the end of the day, our businesses are people businesses,
100%. Awesome. Great books. Number 2, if people wanted to be just like you, what is the first actionable thing that they can do to follow in your footsteps?
Just like us.
I would say for me, get over yourself. I don't mean that, like in a flippant way, but like for me, the biggest hurdle I've had to overcome is the fear of, what are people going to think? What are people going to say about me? Am I going to look stupid? And as I was mentioning earlier, those Facebook Live videos, that was a pivotal moment for me in my life. It seems silly, but to do a stupid 30-second Facebook Live, I can't tell you how much I was shaking in the first videos. And now I'll do one and be like, no, blah, 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 blah. But you are going to have haters. If you take a stand on anything in life or have a belief or faith or anything like that, you're going to have some haters. But you're going to have a ton of people that really want to authentically connect with you. And so as soon as I definitely not all the way there in any way, shape, or form, but that was really key for me. I guess a catchphrase of that Grant Cardone's big on is, don't be a little bitch, don't let ego get in the way. Just don't be petty, all those kind of little things.
That's great. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Nate?
I would say the biggest thing for me is, the number one thing that we've done consistently is, anytime we wanted to accomplish something, we found people that were doing what we already wanted to do and we modeled them. When I wanted to become a pilot in the military, all growing up through high school, I grew up on military bases. So I'd ride my bike to the squadrons on base and hang out with pilots, find someone that would talk to me about, how did you get here? Like, how did you get to where you can fly this F-15 or this F-16 or whatever? And I did that throughout all the way until I became a pilot in the military. And then along that journey, I was like, started discovering other goals and dreams. And, Grant Cardone, started pouring myself into his content, and Ed Milet. Just find someone that's where you want to go and go model them. That's the number one thing that I've done and continue to do, because you can figure it out on your own, and it'll take you a long time. You go find someone that's already done it and just go model what they're doing, and you'll get there a lot faster.
Yeah,
That's beautiful. Beautiful, guys. Fantastic. Number 3, what small thing do most people not know about you?
Should we pick for each other?
Totally, go for it.
I want a pet donkey named Eeyore, and I don't know how soon that's going to happen, because he doesn't want to live anywhere near a rural area. Neither do I, really. So we want to have an Eeyore in a very urban environment. I don't know if that would work. I'm an animal lover. I love animals.
But you're into real estate, so if there's anyone that's going to figure out, it's going to be you.
Yes.
So no problem.
Yeah. Something that you don't know about me. What do you think?
He has braces.
I have braces,
Not many
but that's
people
pretty
can
obvious
notice
now.
that right now.
Oh, I still didn't actually notice, but
There you go.
Oh, cool. Nice, that counts.
But that'll go away here pretty sooner or later. I don't know. Man, what is something that it's unique that or ununique?
I'm not sure.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, that is a tough one.
It's okay, guys. I think I'm going to take the braces answer. That's good.
All right, we'll go with that.
Yeah. And how do you like to unwind and restore your creative juices?
On your own, individually.
I like hiking, and I love changing my environment. I would say changing my environment's the number one thing. Going to pre-COVID, going to conferences, getting out of town for a day, going for a hike. Those are probably the biggest things that it all comes down to changing the environment, getting away, doing something completely different, so you can get those creative juices flowing, because you start working the other parts of the brain.
Yeah, I would say changing environment's huge. We live a few minutes from the beach. I love to go down there with a drink and some snacks and a book and journal, and just kind of journal out a lot of, I never journaled. I didn't like the idea of it. I was boring. Why would you do that? But I just started doing it a few months ago. I started out taking down like quotes I liked, and then like different Bible verses and stuff, and just kind of writing them out, because for me that helps lock it in my memory if I write it out. And now it's become not really a daily thing, but at least a few times a week. And then I love going down to the ocean or somewhere pretty and just kind of reflecting on some things.
Oh, awesome. And last question, is there something special that you guys like to do together?
I love to go flying together.
I was gonna say, I bet he says fly.
That is super
Maybe-
cool.
We got some good stories on that
He
one.
made me black out one time on a plane.
What?
Let's
Oh,
see.
man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, so here's what happened. Here's a good story.
Did that happen
Okay,
on
now
purpose?
we have to hear the story.
Yeah.
All right.
He asked me to help him watch for traffic.
Yeah,
It was at night.
two good stories I'll say. So the first one was we were flying at night. We were actually flying from Florida to Oklahoma. I was like, hey, just keep an eye out. It's dark, so if you see anything. And she kind of abruptly said, what's that? So I look over and I see these two flashing lights. They were stars, but they would look very bright. So I'm just like, that looks really close, and down we go. So we're just like, poof.
Yeah.
So
and the lights went out for me.
Which if you're not used to flying and you're just, you're used to sit slow and steady, that was crazy. The second craziest thing she ever did was, we ever did, is, so I have my helicopter rating. I fly helicopters, not as much as I'd like to, but I used to. And I maybe have been flying helicopters for like 15, 20 hours. I just gotten signed off to go be able to fly on my own. And I took her up. We went up and with no doors on, and flew up. It was down in Florida, so that was pretty crazy. Yeah, that's fun. We love flying together. We want to get our own plane someday. Hopefully, get something small this year.
Yeah.
But we love. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
For me.
And she wants to get her license too, so that's good.
For me, I love dancing. But some people don't like dancing.
So you know what I'm visualizing right now, you guys? I'm visualizing an airstrip in the middle of California, Southern California, with a donkey pasture and also a dance. That's what I'm visualizing for you guys' future. That's your vision.
That's great.
There we
So
go.
yesterday, I was out flying with the guard. We do a lot of flying like locally, and we're actually flying out of this middle of nowhere, kind of in middle of northern Southern California, kind of near Santa Barbara area. And we flew over this area, and it literally was just this private airstrip, had a house, had a hangar, had a field. So it exists.
There we
I've
go.
seen it.
That would work.
So it might happen.
Yeah. I also like those little bitty miniature goats. Those are cute too.
So cool. So many options out there.
I
That's
can't
great.
wait to come visit you guys.
I know,
okay?
it's going to be fun.
Right? Come on down.
Yeah.
Our fictitious house that we don't have.
It's going to be awesome. All right, guys, cool. Thank you so much for being on the show. At this point, I just want to go ahead and open it up and let me ask you guys, like, how can people find out more about what you're doing, what's new in your world? How can they get to know you more a little bit, and maybe talk a little bit about Multifamily Masters as well?
Sure. I'd say the number one place to learn more about us and see all the different things we have going on is just our website. It's yourcashflowcouple.com. We have components about real estate. We have components about our financial business, just other things that are important to us.
Your
Cashflow Couple, YOUR, cashflowcouple.com. And then also you'll find all our social medias through that as well. So that's probably the best way to connect with us.
Yeah.
And then
Multifamily Masters. So Multifamily Masters is a nationwide, even international meetup group that focuses on helping people get started in multifamily investing. We started as a multi-chapter little circle out here in the LA area. We had about 6-7 chapters a couple years ago, and then started to take it more nationwide, rebranded to Multifamily Masters. We have about 50 chapters nationwide now, and the majority of those operate virtually. We also have a once a month event called MFM Live, which is usually a speaker, a panel doing a deep dive into multifamily topics, how to underwrite a deal. We had one this last Monday talking about 3 different deals that our 3 leaders have under contract right now. Just a really great kind of beginning to end. What did that look like for you? How'd you underwrite it? Stuff like that. And we also have a mastermind program. And the mastermind program we just launched a few months ago. I'm super excited about it. It bridges the gap between someone that has a lot of that head knowledge. Maybe they know how to underwrite a deal. Maybe they read a bunch of books. They've listened to podcasts, but they haven't gotten their first deal yet. And they haven't really bridged the gap, okay, I have all this how to, but I need to get my first deal. We really want to help people do that and bridge that gap. And so Mastermind is a really great program. You can find out all about it on our website, multifamilymasters.com. But it's just a really great community. Some of the people in that group are like my second family. So yeah, it's a great resource for someone that just kind of wants to check out something. We also have a Facebook group on multifamilymasters.com. You can join.
The 2 biggest things that I like about it that I've seen just from more of an outsider, because I'm not as heavily involved, is with the virtual meetups. It's great component because now if you want to invest in any, Dallas, you can jump into the Dallas meetup that night, and the next night can be in Louisville, the next night can be in Atlanta, the next night can be in Tucson. So that's really cool. And what we like about the mastermind program versus like a traditional coaching program is it allows you to plug in and find the person in the markets that you want to be in, or find somebody that's in a market that you want to get in, and how you can provide value to that person, and actually get connected to somebody that's in the market and you can actually add value to and get help with. Because like we had a coach early on in the business, but he was on the East Coast and we were looking on the West Coast. It was kind of hard for him to help us in a market that he had no clue about. So this allows people to get connected with the right people in the right markets.
Great stuff. And thank you guys so much. Really appreciate all the resources, all the practical tips, all the fun that we've had. I had a blast talking and chatting with you guys. And,
Same.
yeah, and definitely, I would say that the network is super important. And so that Multifamily Masters program that you guys, or the agendas and all the resources you guys have there, is going to be invaluable to people either wherever they are in their journey. So thank you for bringing all that knowledge, and definitely look this power couple up. Your Cashflow Couple.
There you go.
All right. Well, Nate and Bethany, it's been an honor and it's been a blast having you on. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. It was great.
Really. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you out there, thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you're listening to this, if it's on YouTube or if you're watching us on Spotify or SoundCloud, Stitcher, wherever you listen to this. We greatly appreciate that, so we can get more exposure to more people and get everyone exposed to people like Nate and Bethany here, who are clearly crushing it and doing an amazing job. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and have an awesome night. Thank you.